everything I've been through and everything that I've seen has turned me into the woman that you see. Behind all of the smiles and all your favorite melodies, with a fist full of tears, years full of pain, y'all don't hear me.
Hi, I'm Lynette Talley, and you're listening to Virago 24/7. Virago meaning female warrior, and 24/7 meaning all day, every day. I bring women on the show from all walks of life, and we talk about anything going on in our lives and in the world. Here you will find everyday growth, everyday healing, and everyday warriors. Hey, everybody. We are back with Monica. So last week Monica's my sister. And if you want to get caught up, you have to listen to last week's episode about blended families. So we are back because we have so much to talk about that we had to do a part 2. So we're going to continue the conversation of our blended family and, interacting with our children and emotional stability and all those fun things. Hey, Monica, thanks for coming back on with me, girl.
Thanks for having me.
So I know. So like I said, go back and listen to the episode because I don't want to rehash everything. We touched a little bit on, the step parent part and like the step parent child's relationships. I think that's what we talked more about. So where do we want to start off this week, Monica? What you got?
Talking about like our relationships with each other. We hit a little bit on you and I to really bring
that's true
like, the boys into it.
That is so true.
Refer to the boys, we're always talking about our brothers.
I know, and they're not boys. Like the youngest one, Anthony, he's gonna be 31.
32.
Yeah, 32.
I'm about to be 42.
Oh my gosh, man. I think he's younger than he is. So we call them boys.
Same month.
Even though they're in in their 30s, they're the boys. They're the boys. Yeah. And we're the girls.
Yes.
We're the sisters.
The sisters.
So where do you want to start from that with our relationship? Because actually there's more about us that we kind of briefly touched on it last week where we into like our issues when we got older, like out of the house. With the different dynamics, like you and I being the oldest from the two, but like from the two separate families, like I was the oldest and you were the oldest, and then we came together and then you became the oldest. And I think, I don't know if I had issues with that per se, like, cause we're so close in age, we're only a year apart, that I felt like, oh, she's taking over my position. Because I was reading some articles. It's like sometimes the children will, feel like their spot was taken. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I felt that. But I
hope not, because I don't feel any kind of way.
No, I don't think any of us, because I feel like because we are so close in age, it doesn't feel like, oh, she's older, he's younger. I mean, even though they're obviously
Anthony's the youngest.
He is.
I feel like that was very prevalent.
He's so
the four of us were kind of like equal, and then
yes,
here he comes.
So Monica is obviously the older one, and then I'm a year younger, and then Jose is almost 2 years younger, like less than 2 years younger than me, and then he's a year older than Adam, right? So we're like all squished up, and then Anthony came, so you're 10 years older than him, and I'm 9 years older than him. So that's where the age difference, like if you can see that. So I remember being teenagers and he's like 5'4", and we have to bring him with us. It's like we have to bring our little rugrat brother to hang out with our teenage friends. He was so spoiled. He hates that. Sorry, Anthony. Sorry.
Wasn't. That's like a big thing.
Well,
we'll have to have him on and you guys hash that out.
Well, and I agree with him. I do agree with him. He was spoiled, but there was a time, I think when he became a teenager, like middle school, is where they started really like, he didn't have stability at that time. Like they moved a lot and then he went to boarding school and they just kind of forgot about him. So I think that's what he remembers. That's why he says he wasn't spoiled, because then they kind of were disconnected from him emotionally and he kind of had to fend for himself. So when he says that, I think that's what he's thinking of. He's not thinking of being super duper spoiled when he was like a child, like a baby.
Right.
Like he was.
When he came to live with me when he was a teenager.
Yeah. So up until then, he got whatever he wanted, and we were like, all four of us were the stepchildren, and he was he was the one that was created by the both of them. So he was extra special.
Their love child.
Yeah, it's like, this is our baby together. So we will nurture him, and we will love him, and we will show him emotion and care. But they kind of fell. I don't know what happened. They got tired. I don't know.
No, girl, I think they got tired.
They got tired.
Because I'm tired right now.
I know, but don't you dare do that to that little baby when he gets to be a teenager. It's not his fault that you had your first child when you were like a teenager. Well, you didn't, but your mom was 19. Your mom was 19 when she had you, right? And then poor Anthony, it's like, yeah, we're tired. It's like he's still being raised. Like he's not done yet, guys. So I think that's why he says that. Anyways, that's just all. This is more of a woman platform, but there's certain men that I'll bring on, and you know what? He might have a lot of things to say. Man,
I'm sure he will. He's a good talker. All the boys are pretty good talkers.
They are, actually. Yeah, we'll see about bringing them on. Right now, we'll concentrate on us. So you said last week that you were very protective of Adam, and then I feel like I was very protective of Jose, even though in the household I didn't feel like I had to protect him because, like we said last week, he's the golden child, and so he didn't need protection inside the house. It was more outside, and I feel like Jose and Adam got along pretty well.
Yeah, I do too. I think they had a good bond.
Yeah.
Together.
Well, they were also younger, and their personalities are not as intense as ours. Like, I thought a lot, and I think you did too. We were thinkers when we were younger. And so it's like, yeah, we're kids, but we're the older ones of the family. So I think when you're the older one, you think more. You're not as carefree. And then when you're younger, you're treated differently. You're not expected to be so mature. And so like, we were held to different standards. Also because we're the older ones, and I think because we're girls.
I do know one thing that I wrote down here too. I never went to any parties. I was never allowed to go to any parties.
None of us were. I mean, maybe the boys did when they got older, but we didn't. Oh, heck no. No parties allowed. Yeah, that is interesting. They did go to parties a little.
Yeah, they did. They got to do all the things.
Yeah, we didn't.
We didn't.
And I don't think it has anything to do with a blended thing. I think that has just to do with that's the difference between boys and girls. They're allowed to do everything and we're not. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so crazy. So, okay. So they got to go to parties. So this backfired, but then we went off to college and partied and had babies at a young age. So it's like, you can't stifle someone's creativity and energy, because then when they're out of their parents' home, they're going to go whack, like they're going to go whack.
Then,
you did. Like you started cussing more. You started drinking more and smoking but it's like, okay, well, we went off and had our kids young and they didn't. So there you go. They got to they got to do their thing. And so when they did go to college or whatever, they weren't, it wasn't like a big deal. But for us, it was like they restrained us from doing stuff.
I feel like they had a blast in college. Like,
oh, for sure.
They didn't have babies, but they were up.
But I'm saying because they were allowed to. And for us, there was an expectation of, just being a goody, being the good girl. So that backfired. So let your kids be kids and communicate with them too. Like with Kaylin. Well, for Kaylin, she didn't go to parties, but now that she's in college. So Kaylin, for those who don't know, she's my 19-year-old daughter, and had her when I was 21. With her, it's not like, don't do this and don't do that. I said, if you're going to do this, if you're going to drink or if you're going to do that, do it responsibly. Like, make good choices, but I'm not preaching the don't do that, because the more you say don't do, people they're gonna want to do it more. you know, or when they have a chance, it's like, and then they're going to be secretive about it too.
Right.
You know, and that's one thing I think we never opened up because we were afraid of what was going to come with it. If we were like, oh, we did this, or, you know, like Kaylin tells me so much to the point where I'm like, maybe that's not something you share with your mother, like type thing, you know?
Oh, no, I like welcome it when Brayden.
No, I do too. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I get like into it. I'm like, yeah.
I think it's cool though, because, but it's weird, right? Because we didn't have that. No way we would tell them half the stuff that our kids, but we're open to it and we don't judge them for it, or we don't, you know, and not saying that we allow them to do anything. We're not those kind of parents. Like we'll put our foot down. We're like, no. But they know that. That's the thing. They know their boundaries. They know their limits. And
I always make good choices.
Make good choices. That's my motto. That's what I say all the time. Make good choices. Don't.
Me too.
Don't. And they do make good choices. Look at them. So proud of our adult children. Yeah, they're adult children because they're 18 and 19. So that's weird to say. But going back to our family, the blended, what kind of lessons or takeaways would you take from our relationships together, like to each other? I think our relationships with the boys were good. I think you and I are complicated. We're just complicating this whole blended family thing?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that because both of us were the oldest, right? And because things with our moms weren't super stable.
Yeah.
So then it was like, oh, here we come together,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm doing quotation marks, stability. Mm-hmm. It's weird, you know, because there were all these other feelings. And I feel like we had all of the feelings, so the boys didn't have to have the feeling. I feel like for me, especially, like I felt like, okay, you know, I'll deal with this, or I'll accept this, or I will smooth it over, or, you know, just take charge, if you will. And then when it was time for me to go, I was out.
You dipped out real quick, girl. You were like, peace, I'm out.
Looking back.
Yeah.
And I feel like I get upset with myself a lot for that. Well, I feel like I went off to college and moved to Virginia when I was in that abusive relationship, and there were so many things. So I was gone, and I feel like I missed a lot of what was happening with you guys.
You didn't miss anything. I was off at school. That was just like a home base to me. And if I could go anywhere else, I would have, because it was not, you're not missing out.
With the boys, especially, you know, because I feel like Anthony has a good idea of who I am, and whether that's because he came to live with me for a while, or.
And I think because he's like I think he's like the connection between the five of us, because it's weird because we're all connected, but he kind of like is all of our siblings, like biologically our siblings. So he has a very strong connection with all four of us, because all of us are his blood relation, if that makes sense. So he does know all four of us in a way that the four of us, the older ones, are still trying to figure out sometimes who the four of us are. But he knows, because he's more connected in that way.
And I think for me with Adam especially, you know, I went from like feeling so protective of him, and like he was mine, you know, that was my brother and I was his big sister. So I was going to make sure he wasn't sad ever.
Yeah.
You know, to, okay, now I'm gone, and I don't feel like, to this day, I don't feel like he and I really know each other as adults. Like we don't.
Oh. Well, then when you left, so for everyone so when we say left, I mean, she was 18, she was going off to, I mean, it's not like she was like 16 years old. So she, you know, went off to college, and I was right behind her. But when you left actually to go to college, so going back to the dynamics with the parents, and Adam actually wasn't getting along with Dad at that time. And so Adam was about, 16 years old, I think. And he left. I don't even know if he ever came back to the house. Like, he left and stayed with a friend and finished out high school. Then he might have come back, but I know he was gone for a while and was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm leaving. So it's funny that you say that you were his protector, because then when you were gone, like, he's like, I'm not doing this. And he left. And then around that time, I was going off to college myself. So I was just kind of like, that was like my home base. So it wasn't like I was all in the know of what was going on. Yeah, he's been disconnected from, I think, all of us. I think he was like, I'm dipping out of this family and I'm going to go figure things out. That's so sad. Poor Adam. That is so sad. Maybe he needs to be on here griping and not us.
He might have some insight that we don't have. And I feel like that too. We know that Anthony feels differently than we do. We've had conversations with him before.
Mm-hmm.
Never wanting to hurt his feelings, but he ends up getting pretty sensitive about it just because he's got these different views than we do. And unfortunately, when we were all together the last time, we were talking about other things, but I don't know. I feel like all of us would have differences of opinion.
And yeah, I feel like you're 100% right. Like, we would all have a different story of living in the same family.
But I feel like, you and I, we were the oldest.
Yeah.
And then the boys were the middle, and then Anthony was the baby.
Yes, that's exactly how it is. Yeah. And I think with our relationships also, it's important with the kids and the blended family. Yeah, eventually we got to a place where we accepted each other as brother and sister. We had to learn that because, like we said last week, it was more of a, all right, now we're a big happy family, so love each other. And it's like, well, that's just not how it works. So I think we've had to learn just to do it because it was expected. Like, it wasn't even like allowed for us to have a journey or a process about it. And like it was just kind of like, get along. And if you're not getting along, then you're going to get in trouble, like, type thing. And it's like, well, yeah, let's see it from the child's perspective. Like, it's a lot of change for the child. And I think in our blended family, it was more about the parents struggling through it. Like, they only acknowledged their feelings and those feelings were accepted. But with us, it's like, I don't think they ever saw our side, our perspective. Like, this is a lot for us. Like, not only were you guys living with a stepdad and we're living with a stepmom, and then we're living in another country away from the other parent. And then it's like, that's a lot of change for a child. And yeah, there's going to be like some animosity and some pushback with each other, but also with the lack of communication that we spoke on last week, pitting the children against each other. And I don't think this was done on purpose, but I feel like the reasons that you and I had issues is because we were hearing things from the other parent. For example, like, I think you were told things that I had said about you and blown up, so then you would get about, and so we never even talked about it until years later. Like, we didn't talk for how many years? So this all started when I was about to get married. So I got married at 25. So you can see like how young we were and how not far removed from our teenage years we've never even, what am I trying to say? We never even like addressed anything because you went off and then we kind of all went separately because we were just happy to be out of the house, I guess. We were just happy to be gone. And some of us just were gone, and then we had our kids. And so we were just more focused on that. But in that happening, we didn't communicate as much. So it was more of the other, like the parents, our mom and our dad, and like coming to us with certain things because we didn't communicate. So we just took it to heart like, oh, well, she said that about me. And first of all, why would a parent go to the child and be like, Monica, this is what Leonette said about you. So that around the wedding time is what stirred things up because I remember, and I wrote this down because I'm like, we were not talking around my wedding. It was stressful enough. And there were so many things that were miscommunicated where you thought I didn't want you in the wedding. And I'm like, he just proposed, people. He just like, I don't even know where we're getting married. Like nothing. Like, he had just proposed and all these ideas were being thrown out that she doesn't. And so it was a shit show, people. It was a whole shit show. And so Monica and I didn't talk around that time. But I remember,
devastating because, it was us then, right? The parents and we were the kids, and that was our unit, right? So you being my only sister,
Mm-hmm.
like, well, of course I'm going to be in her wedding and I'm going to be the maid of honor and I'm going to plan everything. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
but I don't even know where that came from. And so then I got pissed. I was like, well, fine, she ain't going to be in the, like, where are you, like, because I think you came at me in a way. I'm like, well, first of all, I haven't even talked to anybody about any planning. And this is, weddings bring the shit out of people, like the crappiest part of people out. And to this day, I don't even remember what your mom told you. But anyways, you didn't like me for it. I got mad, and I remember them calling, not just your mom, but Karen and my father called, and they were like, you just need to make nice with Monica, and you need to be the bigger person because she's had a worse life than you. She's had it worse in life than you. And I remember thinking like, what the hell? Like, what are you guys, like, why are you comparing our life? Like, it's so bizarre. So don't do that to your children, people, because then we turn on each other. Like, what do you mean she's had a worse life than me? What does that mean? Well, she just has. I don't even know what that meant. And they never really answered because I was like, what are you talking about? Like, a worse life? Like, we kind of lived in the same house. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, so that was done. And so that made it worse. That didn't make it better because I'm like, hell no. She didn't have a worse life than me. Like, what the hell does that mean? So, geez, step parents, don't pit the children against each other. Gosh, oh my gosh.
I can't even imagine doing that, honestly.
I don't know. That happened. It's a true story. It's a true story. I'm telling you.
I know. That was a couple years of our lives.
Yeah. And it's just going back to like, she's your mom, so you're going to believe what she says and you're going to cling to whatever. And, you guys have that biological bond and I'm the stepchild, even though we didn't use those words. I mean, we're all human beings and you can't tell me that you don't feel differently. You can act all you want, but as kids, we know we're not stupid. Like we know that there's a difference, even when you're acting like there isn't, and it's okay. You should treat us differently because we're all different personalities, going back to personalities. So don't try to act like we should be all treated the same because you wouldn't do that if it was all biological children. You don't do that, but that's what they were trying to do with us. Or lack of, like, it's just like, well, we're not going to treat them like anything because going back, it shows favoritism.
And
don't show favoritism.
Like things that I despise the most is being compared. I hate that.
Oh yeah.
I hate that. I never compare myself. I never feel like I'm better or I'm worse or, everybody has their own struggle, their own life, their own dynamic. Each of our lives now as adults, they're all completely unique and so different.
And it's what works for us and our personalities and
right.
Yeah.
And so in my heart of hearts, it was like, I love her and she's my only one. She's my only sister and I'm happy for her. And why would she think that I feel anything but happiness, and excitement? Like, because those are
because we were always compared and there was always some kind of jealousy. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is. So we never felt secure or we never, not secure. We just never believed the other person. Like, I don't think you believed that I wanted you to be happy and vice versa. Like truly, because there was always something getting in the way of that or something kind of showing us like, well, maybe she doesn't, and I think that, but no one ever came to our rescue. Not that we needed to be rescued or like, hey, let's get together and let's squash this. And like, no, it was like, I feel like the fires were fueled. And I don't know if it's like a personality thing or a blended thing. I don't know. I don't know if that happens in other families, like kids being pitted against each other. And I'm just going to use that word. That might sound very extreme, but that's how I felt. But there was never no resolution. It's just like, suck it up, call her because she had a worse life. I'm like, how is that going to make things better? Oh my gosh.
I remember feeling so thankful. Like once it happened and I don't know how many hours, I mean, I was in Virginia still. So I don't know how many hours we were on the phone. I know I smoked a lot of cigarettes and I cried a lot. I was like,
I
oh,
think, yeah, I think I'm so glad that we didn't like grow up and be like, okay, she's just my stepsister, so I don't have to work on this. And I never had that attitude before. So I'm glad that never crept in. And, you know, and
it
when,
very easily could have.
oh, that's what I'm saying. And especially when dad passed away, it could have easily, you know, done harm to us and been like, okay, well, that was a chapter in my book that I don't have to, you know, revisit. And so I'm very thankful for that because, you know, we have brothers. We don't have, you know what I'm saying? We have biological brothers, but not biological sisters. And so even though we're not blood related, it's nice to say that, oh my gosh, I have a sister. And I'm so happy that we were mature enough to see that this is worth working on. Because it could easily have been like, well, bump that. Like, she causes me too much drama. I can't deal with this shit anymore. Yeah. But it was us. It wasn't the parents that brought it on. It was us being mature enough to be like, let's just work on this. And
I
it's
feel
just,
like still doing that. You know, it's like evolving our relationship and growing
definitely
as adults and moms and
yes.
40s now where it's like, okay, cut the shit
and just be and I think we've learned how to communicate, not just to each other, just in general, just in this world, how to express ourselves in a way where we can say what we need to say without feeling like we're hurting the other person's feelings. And I think we've grown a lot. Like, we've grown in a way where we don't take things personally either. So I think that's been a growth within us.
Because I was so sensitive all the time. I always took everything to heart, and most of the time took it as a negative.
Yeah.
You know, even though it was like, oh, this is a huge positive. Like, we're actually discussing this and we're going to, you know, make it better. But for me, it always back then felt like an attack or like,
same.
Oh, no, I did something wrong, or now there's confrontation.
Same.
So,
yeah.
You know, it was kind of like a shutdown sort of thing. So.
Well, I think if we had parents that were more emotionally mature, it could have been different. I think things could have turned out differently, because if that were me and my family, and I don't have a blended family, and we'll get into that later, because, you know, not only were we raised in a blended family, but like we each have our own, you know, blended families now as adults. Being emotionally mature to know, like, oh my gosh, like, these girls are not doing well. Like, let's get them together. Let's, like, you know, talk about this instead of pouring fuel on the flames. I think that's what happened more often than not. Instead of trying to create resolution, it was more like creating more flames. So,
separation.
Yeah, separation.
With like a.
Why do you think that is?
Competition.
Yeah. Why do you think that was?
I don't know. Because, I mean, if you look at us, we're completely different. You know, just
extremely.
Not just outward appearance.
Like, our personalities are completely different.
Personalities are different.
Mm-hmm.
The lives of adults,
mm-hmm.
You know, what I've gone through is very different than what you have. And still, it doesn't matter because you're still my sister. There's nothing there that's going to take that away or to make me feel insignificant, you know, or like it's not something that's special.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if nothing else, with all the crazy, I got you from that. So.
I know. No, I mean, I think we all five of us got each other from that. And, you know, I feel like we were, as adults, are learning through that. And I kind of wish it could have just happened when we were younger, you know, and I think it just goes back to the parenting styles. And, you know, going into another direction is, you know, now that we're adults and we've learned from that, like you touched a little bit on that, where, you know, you have your 3 boys and then now you're married to someone. Well, let's back it up. Because you have now, as an adult, you have so much experience from the whole blended thing. So let's back it up. Okay. Tell us about you from the beginning, because it's very fascinating. Mine is boring. I have like 3 sentences about mine. So I don't know if you want to go first or I go first, because yours is like more to dive into.
I mean, if you want to do yours first, you
No,
can.
mine is more like, okay, so I married someone who didn't have children, and I came with one child. I came with Kaylin, who's 19. And then Philip and I had two more. So we have Kaylin, who's 19, Khalil, 12, and Corinne, 10. So two girls and a boy. And, but when I met Philip, she was 1. We were friends, and then we started dating when she was around 3. And then when she was 4, we got married. But I think what I took away from it as, okay, now my child has a stepdad. And I always preached, like I told him, because he didn't have kids of his own. So he doesn't know that. He didn't know that kind of love until we had ours together, and then he understood. But I'm like, you'll understand once you have yours, like your own blood. But he has accepted her. And in the beginning, I was like, mama bear, like, he looked at her sideways. I'm like, why did you look at her like that? What are you doing looking at her like that? It was like, oh my gosh, like, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, he's like, she's in my home. Like, it's like, I have to, like, you can't be the only one to discipline her. And I'm like, okay, you're right. So it's something that I had to get over. Like, okay, I can't expect him to have all these dad duties, like love on her and care for her, but then he can't discipline her. So I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I had to learn that. But luckily, I learned to communicate more, and her dad, stepped away and went off and did whatever when she was sick. So, he became her dad, and, she's had struggles about her biological father, not necessarily what's happening in the home. So I think I learned from our upbringing to like communicate with her and ask her questions and not pretend that there's not another biological dad out there. Just because he's not there doesn't mean we pretend he doesn't exist. So just following up with her, like, hey, how do you feel? If you ever want to reach out to him, let's do it. Just kind of every so often kind of coming together and not acting like it doesn't exist and that there aren't feelings there, because that's when a child internalizes everything like, oh, I'm the only one that's concerned about this, and the adults in the family don't care. So I was very, very hyper aware of that, but I think it's been good. She's 19, and 19-year-olds and girls especially have their anxiety and issues, and she's the older one, so she thinks too much. I'm like, I get you, girl. I get you, because I'm the same way. But really, it's worked out, and I've learned from that. But he didn't come with the other children, so I don't have that point of view, but you do. So let's talk about that, because that's a lot. So where do you want to start, from the beginning?
Man,
First came Braden.
Yeah, his dad is David, and he is biracial. So my son is technically a quarter black, even though he just looks half black. Or
David doesn't look mixed. He looks black. Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. And you never married him, but he had a daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had a daughter, and
you were awesome with her. I don't know at the time, but I know even now that you're not even with him, you still you connect with her, and
I make her a priority.
Yeah, because that's his sister.
In all things, Braden, she needs to be involved.
Yeah.
And
because they're siblings, and you can't pretend that they're not siblings.
Right.
Just because you're not with the dad. Yeah.
So for me, even though I wasn't married to David, I was still with him.
I mean, you had a life. You guys lived together, and you had a life together.
I asked Katie, who is Braden's sister's mom. So Braden's sister's Alyssa. Her mom is Katie. And I asked her and her husband if we could talk. And I think I was like 6 months pregnant at the time. And they agreed, which was nice, because she and David's relationship was kind of yuck then, or non-existent.
And Alyssa's how much older than Braden? She was little.
Yeah, Alyssa was 3 or 4, maybe 4 years different. 18.
Okay.
A 4-year difference, I think.
Okay.
Approximately, I'm not 100% sure. But it was important for me to have a relationship with her mom, so that when my son was born, he knew his sister. A lot of times when she would come to visit, she'd be with me. I'd pick her up. I'd take her home. So yeah. And Katie agreed, and we had play dates, together. She and I.
That's awesome though.
make-
But you guys had to sit down and communicate. Like if you hadn't sat down and communicated, it would have never happened. So
no.
that was mature of you at the time because you had Braden at a young age. So that was good.
So that was nice. And that worked out. She and I always
Even
got
now.
along.
Yeah.
And Alyssa, Braden's sister, is sweet to me. She's kind to me. She hugged me and told me she loved me at his graduation.
Well, it goes back to communication and accepting this child that this person is bringing in. And it may not be easy, but you're communicating and you're open to that. So that's good.
Right. And then fast forward, relationship over. I marry Maddox's dad, Clayton.
So Maddox is her second child. He's 12.
He is 12.
Mm-hmm.
And big gap there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're all like 6 and 7 years apart. Like seriously.
So you have all different stages. That's so funny.
Yeah. So I get married and he has a daughter also. And of course she has a mom, and it wasn't as easy with her and her mom because of the mom's relationship with my now ex-husband. It's never a good one. So it was hard for me to talk to her or even relate or have opinions. I mean, that was very difficult, but now she and I are friends, and Maddox's sister Haley and I, we're friends and we talk. And
but at the time when you were married to him, she would come over. And how was that, like being the step parent and bonding with her?
That was tough. She was the only child at the time, so she was used to having her dad's time, and she was daddy's girl. And she and Braden are close in age, like we are, just a year apart. So we had to establish really early on our family dynamic and our family rules. What applies to Braden also applies to you, kind of a thing. And that was tough because she wasn't used to it. She was used to getting her way. Braden was always pretty disciplined and, very much a pleaser. Also.
Just like his mama.
Very well behaved, and she and Braden are still, friends and stuff, and they catch up every now and again on social media or whatever. Nice. Yeah. But it was, that was a challenge. And then of course my marriage failed. And so then it's like, you're kind of stuck, oh, well, she's not mine. So do I keep in touch with her? And the same thing, even though David and I were never married, it was like that with Alyssa too. Where's my place? I don't want to overstep. I'm not your mother. I'm now your dad's ex. So it's, there's a fine line there, but I'm super grateful that I still have relationships with those girls.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cause you don't really have to, I mean, you do have to, because those are your boys' siblings, but most people wouldn't. They'd be like, oh, I'm done with your dad. So peace. like what's the point of, but that's awesome that you've done that. Like, how did you even come to that? Because I feel like if I'm wondering if Karen and Dad had divorced, like if that would have been the same with us. And my answer would probably have been no. I think it would have been like out of sight, out of mind. I'm not with him.
For me, I never wanted my kids to feel what I felt.
Okay.
So for me, it was a huge deal to be accepting, to communicate, to show that my heart's big enough to love both of them, to accept this one, even though she's not mine, to care for her and provide for her. And still, I'll still, like just the other day, I sent Haley a message and was like, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I think she was going through kind of a tough time, and let them know that, okay, it didn't work out, but you're still
thought of. Yeah. That's amazing though, because
can come to my house at any given time.
That's awesome. I mean, and I guess when you lack something when you're younger, you take that and then it's like, okay, I'm going to do differently. I think that's awesome. And so then when you divorced him, you were single mom for a while and now you're remarried to Adam and you guys have a little boy.
Postcard for people that don't know. So my life is still up and move, up and move. If you could see the screen, you'd see a bunch of boxes in the background because I'm crazy in the middle of chaos.
Well, it's like so crazy. This is like a side note, having nothing to do with the topic of blended families, but since we move so much, I always crave stability. And so I found someone who Philip moved into that house when he was 6 and he's 51, so he had so much stability and so that's what I've always craved is stability. But it's funny how and I'm happy with that. I'm like, I think as an adult, I've moved, after I married Philip, we had one house and now this is our second house. So I'm like, I love that. But with you, you're like, we're just going to continue on the tradition of moving. I love that.
Keep it going. But no, I mean,
it's funny how we just and the boys move a lot too. So I'm like, I think they took away hey, I can move and be okay. And I'm like, no, I just want to stay put.
I'm hoping this is it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
This is it. And this is our forever home. And I can give
stability.
My two that are home still. Yeah. Yes. This is their stability. This is their home. This is where we are establishing root. They don't know my family in Ohio. They haven't been around them. So it's like, but
they'll have a nice extended family to get to know.
Caution because it's overwhelming. It can be, especially with
Monica has a big family on that side. Like Karen comes from a big family. She's one of 6 and there's a lot of nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles and cousins.
The cousins are having kids. So it's hard to keep them all in line and who belongs to who and how's this working. I think in the long run, it'll be nice to just
be put. But that was
Georgia never really felt like home. I thought about that too. Like when we were going to have this talk, where do I feel at home? And I don't know if it's because we lived in Switzerland the longest or if that's where I did most of my growing up and developing or whatever. But, to me, that always felt like, ooh, I would love to go there. That felt like, and where I felt most at peace or most of myself. I guess I talk about it a lot too. Oh, when I was in Switzerland, this and this and this. My neighbor just the other day was like, oh, when you were in Switzerland, huh? They pick on me.
When you were off in Europe.
But it's not it's weird because when I talk about my life, I reference places. So it's not like I'm trying to brag. Oh,
no, of course not. It's just that's the connection and you're painting a picture. I do the same thing. Yeah, back in Switzerland. What? You lived in Switzerland, in Sweden? I'm like, Switzerland? Did you learn Swiss? Or no, what are they? Swedish? I'm like, okay, first of all, American. I'm like, I need you to go Google that crap because you're all over it. I'm not educating you. But okay, that's a side note. So going back, so now you are married to Adam. And then, so you brought your 2 sons in. You guys have a child together. He's 4. And then he has 3 children from his previous marriage.
Yes.
How's that going?
Ooh, great day.
So this is a tougher one.
Yeah, this has not been easy and still is. Thankfully, now my relationship with the children is good. As good as it can be because we don't live in the same home.
And not even in the same state.
Not in the same state.
Yeah, no. So that's hard too.
Yeah. Their mom is not accepting of me. She's never met me in person. I can get along and be nice.
It's hard to love the ex. It's hard to love the ex.
Yes. But it would be nice if we could communicate. If I wasn't like all these horrible names I'm not going to say on your podcast.
So it makes it harder when the adults in the relationship are not being mature for the children. Right. It makes it harder. Right.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying.
They're not, and I mean, it's usually the dad. It's in my experience, my 2 previous experiences, it was the dad that wasn't really, making the effort. you know, where here it's like the mom and she's making every effort to create hate or division, you know, and definitely no love for evil stepmother kind of a thing. So the first few times that they came and stayed with us, it was a challenge because they had these opinions of me already kind of like drilled into their mind.
And that's going back to not talking badly about the adults in the family. Like that, you don't do that.
She, I'm sure to this day, talks yucky.
Because then that alters the child and it alters how they see things. And that's not healthy for children to hear bad things, and let them come up with their own opinions, because kids become adults and we all form our own opinions at one point, and just let them see for themselves how they should feel about the other person.
It was a huge thing to love them more and include them more, and to let them see how I interact with their younger brother, see how, you know, and even that was an issue because their mom doesn't acknowledge their brother. My son, you know, there was division there. So I had to try and
how old are the kids on that? How old are they? So we have a picture of
17, 15, and going on 10.
Okay. And you've been around for how long?
7 years.
7 years. Okay. That's tough. But I encourage you just to kind of keep positive with them. Don't stoop down to her level and talk smack about their mom. Yeah, that's good.
I never, you know, because then that doesn't shine well on me to do that.
Of course
not.
And
that's still their mom, you know, hate me, love me, whatever she wants to do. It's still their mother, and it's not my place. And plus, I'm not really trying to talk about her. I'm trying to establish a relationship
you're trying to connect
with her kids. And thankfully, I mean, they love Maddox.
So the kids get along?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Yeah. They all get along. There's no jealousy there. You know, we really, just like my kids are all different, his are different too. You know, thankfully, the boys, his older boys and Maddox, you know, they have that like gaming thing in common.
That always connects people.
And I never had a little girl aside from my, you know, stepdaughters, previous relationship. So I, you know, do hair and go get nails done. And it's fun to, you know, share those little things, girly things. Because I have boys. So yeah, it's really.
So you're still in the process of it, like with the other two relationships and steps, you know, stepdaughters, and you're removed from it, so you can see the lessons and how things are and how. But you're right now, you're in the middle of it. You're still in it. Well, girl, you got this. You got this, because you can learn from, like you said, like we learned from our upbringing, what not to do, and just hang in there and be patient, because you have to remember they're kids going through their own emotions and their own, you know, stories that they're telling, you know, themselves in their head. It's, you know, who knows how things are in their home. I mean, I don't know them like that, but,
well, then that's how I feel too.
They can probably come and see like, well, dang.
Like, shake them, be like, do you not understand?
Yeah.
Like, what?
No, it's hard with kids. No, it's going to just have to be time, just time.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll get there, but just be patient with them, because you specifically don't want to alter how they see, you know, the world, because of the adults in our family. And anyways,
his daughter says she loves me.
That's important. See, there you go. That's sweet. So see, look at us maturing and growing. I love it. Oh, Monica, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I think we've talked about these things in like bits and pieces, never in one big, you know, conversation, 2-hour conversation like this. So I feel like it's been therapeutic for me, because these are things that I've already kind of dealt with on my own. So I'm hoping that you know, this is a process and a start for you to open up. And
I thought I was going to be crying. Honestly, I was ready. I've got tissues over there. So it was,
we can keep talking. Really nice. We can keep talking so you can cry.
Yeah. But because really, you know, it was emotional to sit there. Maybe I processed it really as I was writing it. Good.
I'm thinking we're not going to get answers for why things were. And I think as we get older, I think a lot of adults want those answers. And so we kind of hold on to it and we just create some anger and just in anything, not just even like to stop talking about the blended thing, just in general, just anything in our lives. We just want these answers. And you know what? Sometimes we're never going to get them in this lifetime. So we just have to learn to change our insights and not worry about what has happened or the external. Like we have to learn to just love ourselves enough to just be like, you know what? We're just going to move forward and create new memories and just leave the past in the past. And so that's what I've learned through all of this. Because girl, you don't even know all the pent up anger I've had. And so I knew I wasn't going to cry because I'm like, I've already made peace with all of it and I've thrown it away. It's all gone. It's like, let's move forward with the sibling relationships that I have with the four of you and keep it moving and keep it strong and, you know, have our kids grow up together and know each other and just know that, you know, they're loved and they see us loving each other and we just have to be a good, you know, role models for them to see like, okay, they're not blood related, but look at how they interact and how they love each other. And, you know, we're not all blood cousins, but we never say, hey, this is your step cousin. We never use those words like this is your cousin. No. And they all look so different too, because, you know, we're all different. Our kids are all different shades and, you know, the boys and their kids. So it's funny. It's like, this is your cousin. That's it. Bottom line.
I feel like that's something that, hey, applaud to us because race was never like a thing.
Never.
Did we make any kind of separation? Oh, this is my half brother.
Never.
Oh, he's got some black in him. Oh, no. You know, Puerto Rican, Dominican.
Unless people ask, or they'll just look at you like, wait, what? How? Like what? It's like, let's explain. It's a 2-second.
Remember that one time we had totally convinced these people? I think they were. It was 2 females that we were twins.
I don't remember that. No.
Oh my gosh. Girl, yes. And those were the funnest moments when we just tried to mess with people. Like,
oh my
you'll never figure it out. You will never figure it out unless we explain it. And so then we were like, no, we're twins, really. Nuh-uh. Yes, totally. It can happen.
We are.
Some kind of way.
That is so funny. Well, for those, since this is, you can only hear our voices, I'm going to post, I'm sure people are curious to see like what we look like. So I'm going to post a picture of us. And I have a blog also that's connected to the podcast where I'll just go on and, you know, put additional things and in Word. But my blog is Virago247. And it's wordpress.com. So it's virago247.wordpress.com. And I'm going to post a picture of us so you can see that we look like twins. We look so much alike. Actually, I'll post a picture of the boys too. So you can see our happy blended family. It's happy now and we're still working on it. So it's been a pleasure again, Monica. Love you, girl. And I'll have you on for other future topics because it's fun talking to you. But I'm going to leave you with this quote. You can tell who the strong women are. They are the ones you see building one another up instead of tearing each other down. And that's what we're trying to be. So love you, girl. See you on the next show. Bye.
Everything I've been through and everything that I've seen has turned me into the woman that you see. Behind all of the smiles and all your favorite melodies, for a fistful of tears, years full of pain.